Well, good morning, everybody. Morning, Zoom land. It's really funny watching myself talk. Okay, well, that's what's happening up here. Boy, big topic this month, faith, huh? Journey of faith. And so Roger and Joan led us off, and so I'm going to approach this consistency about faith, about coming home today. And so I thank Mark for the song, the John Denver song about coming home, and the line, gee, it feels good. Gee, it feels good. So feel that. It feels good to come home to Unity this morning, to friends, to family, to ourselves, to our spiritual path. Gee, it feels good. So aware of the impediments to feeling good these days, okay? So it's not just the COVID lingering, but it's the political jargon, it's the warring factions, it's the us against them. And in book group, we're really looking at the concepts of how we keep creating us and them through all sorts of different books. And I'm really guilty, and so I've got to be working on this one. Us and them, wow. And so spiritually, we have to come to, if we're going to heal what needs to be healed, the unity that all souls are of love. That we have to do our individual work. And if we want to prevent war, we have to look at what's the warring factions within ourselves still. If we want to stop divisiveness, we have to stop divisiveness in ourselves. And so when I was preparing this talk, I was way too overwhelmed by how many possibilities I had. Especially because I'm taking Rowan's place today. So I was preparing a talk for February about strength, and now I'm doing faith. Well, okay then. And so I thought, Rowan, okay. So it's interesting that I'm taking Rowan's place. I love coincidences. When Thich Nhat Hanh, his leader, his love, died. So, wow. So I thought of his presence and his personality and how the divine made a movement through him. And I've read numerous Thich Nhat Hanh books in the past, but I can't remember, I don't know what they said. Okay, I can't distinguish in my mind, well, who said that, and what did Gandhi say, and what did Rumi say, and who said what. I can't remember that, but I remember his presence. I remember when I even hear the name Thich Nhat Hanh, I go, oh, phew. Thich Nhat Hanh, you know, that leader, that love source, that vibration. And I go, wow. I don't remember specifically his words, but I remember his presence. And we're asked to be in faith, to keep returning to ourselves so that we're the presence. So that we're the presence in the world that people aren't afraid of. The people that when they're around us feel comfortable, that they feel loved. Maybe that's all this is, huh? That being the spark of the divinity in this individual personality, your individual personalities, maybe that's what it's all about. The simplicity and yet the enormity of that task, huh? Is that how do I look at myself and my defensiveness and the things that I've gone through that have hardened me about that? And I love this quote from Rumi. Rumi said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all those barriers within yourself that you have built against it." All the barriers we have built against allowing love to touch us, to be us, to motivate us. And so we have to look, and we talk about this all the time in Unity, about our programming and our patternings that have created this. I'm also aware recently Betty White died. And when I think of Betty White, I just grin in myself. I mean, feel her. Betty White. And she had such a good way of being with a punchline, didn't she? She just kind of sat there being kind of naive and silly and and then she'd come out with this just outrageous something. And it was like her presence was lovely. Her presence not only for people, but for humor that didn't hurt, didn't harm others. Her humor didn't harm others. Her humor was soft and goofy and took the human condition like, yeah, right, yeah, well, that's where we are. I mean, that's us, yeah, as humans. And she would just make it silly, but she would do it from such a sweet kind of deadpan place. And then she'd come out with a zinger. And that was her. It was that sense of presence that was her. And I saw on Facebook where the Missoula Humane Society got $15,000 so far just because on Facebook they put out a pledge for animals because she loved animals all these years and fought for them and supported animals. And so our Humane Society gained because of that presence to sustain animals. That as a soul, she did her love contribution for the world. She did that. She was able to, but she did it as herself. She didn't do it as other comedians who were trashing other people or making fun of them. She didn't do that. She did it in a simplicity about the follies of human nature, and yeah, there we are. You know, that was kind of her humor. And then I didn't know this person, but Bob Saget, a comedian, also died recently. And I'm not a big TV watcher, so I really don't know his contribution, but boy, he made an impact, Bob Saget. And everybody that has talked recently is that he was a love source. He was a love source. He walked around telling everybody in his humor, in his family, in his friendships, that he loved them. And apparently he overdid it really good. Because everybody that has spoken that knew him as love source. Wow, love source. So that coming back in faith that we are that it's not outside us. And Panache Desai had I thought was really funny in his morning call to come. He says, you know, God's love doesn't have any transportation issues. It's just there. It's there when we get quiet. It's there when we remember to breathe. It's there when we remember just to slow down. It's there when we remember that we love somebody when we're mad at them. You know, it's there. So I want to read a little bit from the Urantia book, and this might be a little wordy, but I think it really speaks to the point that I want to make today is that our conditioning, our dogmatic stuff, especially through religions and cultures, have made us wrong and bad. Has entrained us that there's something wrong with us. That we always have to be fixing things, that we got to improve ourselves, that we got to, that we never make the mark somehow. And this scripture that I'm going to read from the Urantia book is saying, no, that's not truth. You are the divine spark. And of that, and in that, there's a rightness. And your individual personalities, your individual lives that you've been born into, the individual timing of history that you came into, that I came into, that the little ones that are coming into now, is not a spiritual mistake. And that it's important that we understand that our personalities, how we're to manifest this, is not a mistake. There's nothing wrong with us. In fact, it's very important that we claim that our path is our path and nobody else's. Even though culturally and religiously we've been made wrong about it so often. So this is a little lengthy, but I want you to bear with me just because I think it's so lovely. So this is James, and he's talking to Jesus. It's on spiritual unity. He says, Master, how shall we learn to see alike and thereby enjoy more harmony among ourselves? When Jesus heard this question, he was stirred within his spirit so much that he replied, James, when did I teach you that you should see alike? I have come into the world to proclaim spiritual liberty, to the end that mortals may be empowered to live individual lives of originality and freedom before God. I do not desire that social harmony, fraternal peace shall be purchased by the sacrifice of free personality or spiritual originality. What I require of you, my apostles, is spiritual unity, and that you can experience in the joy of your united dedication to the wholehearted doing of the will of my Father in heaven. And I'm going to add, which is love. You do not have to see alike or feel alike or even think alike in order to spiritually be alike. Spiritual unity is derived from the consciousness that each of you is indwelt and increasingly dominated by the spirit gift of love. Your apostolic harmony must grow out of the fact that spirit hope of each of you is identical in origin, nature, and destiny. So even when we see hatefulness, disparity, inequality, injustices, at the spirit level, it's the all. We're all of source. And we know, because it's getting tighter and tighter, that we have to change the systems that we're in to accommodate going forward on this planet in a much more peaceful way, that some people are desperate to hold on to systems, belief systems that continually harm. That there's a stuckness in patterning of conditioning that needs to be examined in each of us in order to move forward in a different way. So it goes on to say, in this way, you may experience a perfected unity in spiritual purpose and spirit understanding growing out of a mutual concept, a consciousness of the identity of each of your indwelling paradise spirits, which again I'll say love. You may enjoy all of this profound spiritual unity in every phase of the utmost diversity of your individual attitudes or of intellectual thinking, temperamental feeling, or social conduct. Your personalities may be refreshingly diverse and markedly different, while your spiritual natures and spiritual fruit of divine worship, brotherly love, may so unify that all behold your life will surely recognize this spiritual identity in soul identity. So sometimes I feel way too little for what's going on now. I feel way too little. I feel incompetent sometimes. And yet I know that it's as simple as returning to meditation, to returning to my breath, that I'm connected to Source, and that in that lies much bigger possibilities than my individual personality gets scared about. And that at some level, it's not about my personality at all. It's about, can I be a presence that people aren't afraid of? Can I, in my languaging, not present us and them? Boy, that's a challenge, because I feel politically spooked now. So this cognizance of we have to keep going back to what is this entrainment that makes us stuck. And by bringing the entrainment to the now and offering the divine support to it, that's how we heal. That's how we heal not only for ourselves, but others around us. I was indoctrinated when I was little with life is hard. How many know that one? Life is hard, it's tough, you gotta suck it up. Okay, I did long-suffering saints. Who did long-suffering saints? Okay, so a brief story. When I was approximately 4 years old, my dad broke his back. And he was gone from the family 4 months, and I don't know how much it is because my family is so inconsistent with this story, I don't know, okay? So, but I was 4 when this happened. And during this time somewhere, my mom was trying to organize 5 kids, which I was the 4th coming down. And so I was 4, and apparently I was the one goofing off. Okay, she was lining us up, and I don't know if we were going to church or if, I don't know where we were going, but she was trying to organize 5 kids from 16 down to 2 to go out the door and get wherever we were going. So I was goofing off apparently. Okay, so she was mad at me. She took me by the shoulders and she was really mad. And she was shaking me saying, Evelyn, the trouble with you is you think everything should be fun. Okay, I was 4 years old. Yeah, okay, I kind of think everything should have been fun then. Okay, so she was mad, beat red in the face, shaking me. And then, I don't know the exact words because I was a little kid and terrified of being shaken. She said something like, well, life is hard. And you got to understand that. You got to understand that life is hard. Okay? So, the 4-year-old in me, I thought goofing off and fun was not okay, right? I took that on. And I took that on if I was the troublemaker, 4 other kids were behaving, even the baby, and I'm the one goofing off, then I'm the troublemaker, right? Okay? And I really have pondered this a long time, and I've worked on healing this a long time. But I really took on the concept that life is hard. And being spontaneous and goofy scares people. And it makes them mad when I'm goofy and they want to organize things in a different way than me being goofy, okay? So I had a seriousness about me, and I think I probably enjoyed quite a few things growing up, because I actually had a really nice house, and my mom was a really good person. I got to tell you that. Mabel was good. But boy, did I take on life as hard. And I'm going to get shook to my core if I don't agree with that at some level. Okay, so that was my mentality as a 4-year-old. And I can tell you that I really didn't feel free in myself to really be a goof off until I got to college. That it took me that, and that doesn't mean I didn't have fun in high school, because I did a lot of things that were interesting and fun. But to actually be able to goof off and have fun, wow. But part of me likes to be goofy. I like to make people laugh. I had a friend, Nance. She was my best friend. She's dead now, but she thought I was funny. And I became funny with her. I became more lighthearted because she had that belief in me that I was funny. And so actually with her, I was goofy. I became that. I became freer with her because she loved that part of me. But most people don't like that funny part of me. In fact, I don't like that funny part of me if I get consternation. Okay. So anyway, that's just a story to say how embedded this individual personality stuff is, that something's wrong with me if I rock the boat. One of the sayings in my family, especially from my dad, is don't rock the boat. Oh, don't you be rocking the boat. In other words, conform, do what we can do to maintain peace. And so that was an interesting thing. And so I got to really thinking about how do we free each other up and understand that if we're going to allow other people to have their spiritual journeys, we have to first of all own our own. That our paths are our paths, and it's perfect for whatever we're here to learn, and we don't exactly know that all. But that other people aren't wrong in what they understand about the way they were raised either. Isn't that wild? Isn't that just wild? That we have got so indoctrinated from religion, not spirituality, religion, and dogmas and cultural things, that my God is my God and your God's wrong. And my dad would say this jokingly, because my mom was a Lutheran convert into Catholicism. I was raised Catholic, and he would say it as a joke in Anaconda that the Protestants would walk on one side of the street and the Catholics would walk on the other side of the street going to church. Okay? And so my dad would say, oh, those Protestants. Like that. But it was a joke because my mom was Protestant and became Catholic. But it was that underpinnings of, well, we're actually better and we're actually walking on this side of the street and they're over there. Oh, how silly is that? But that's Anaconda, Montana. You know, and we're watching synagogues be attacked now, and we're watching all this cultural world and religious intolerances. And so how do we keep coming home today? Back to, no, I'm love. I'm love. It's me. It's me. I'm love. I'm the one that makes the world safer today. I'm the one. I'm the one that finds a way in my presence, like Betty White, like Thich Nhat Hanh. How do I so come home to that that in my presence, my beingness, our presence, our beingness as unity, that we create that safety. So that's what we're working on today in faith. So faith, it takes commitment, consistency, and repetition to live in the present. To live in the present. I want to tell another story, and I have permission from a client to tell this story, but it was a man that came to me, and his mom was in the process of dying, and he had a lot of regrets about his relationship with his mom. And so during the work with him, we came to a story where he was young, maybe around 5 or so, and they had an old house with a high porch, you know, those brick houses with the high porches and cement steps. And his brother pushed him down the steps, and he got really hurt. It terrified him. His brother pushed him, and he came crashing down cement steps onto the sidewalk, and he got really harmed. And he was scared and terrified. Okay, so there was a next-door neighbor lady who saw it. She was out in her yard, and she came rushing over and cared for him. She scooped him up, she soothed him, she rocked him. She saw it happen, so she herself was terrified. She swooped in, loved him up, was rocking him on the sidewalk there, and that's what he remembered, okay? So, but then it dawned on him that that was the creation of his disengagement with his mom. His mom was in the house when that happened, and she wasn't aware of that her little boy just got pushed down the steps. She wasn't aware of that. So finally somebody ran in and got his mom, brought her out. Then mom was appropriate, okay? Mom loved him up. She took him to the hospital. And then she did what a mom did. But what happened for this gentleman was that he had the deep understanding that the next door neighbor lady loved him and that his mom wasn't there, even though she showed up later, okay? That's what his belief from being a little kid was. And so during his lifetime, if he would have a crisis, if he'd have a troubledness, if he wanted to have a sense of coming home, he would go to the next door neighbor lady, okay? And now his mom's in the process of dying, and he's realizing that his belief from being a little kid that the next door neighbor lady loved him, but his mom didn't because she wasn't there right when it happened. Whoa. Talk about a gestalt, huh? Understanding that, yes, it's true, the neighbor lady loved him, but in that belief, he didn't allow his mother's love in the way that she was actually capable of. And so he did a lot of mending and a lot of repair work before his mom passed. So as children, we all have these harmed, these hurtful situations, these sadnesses that cause us suffering, that cause us a blunting, an inability to allow some people to love us, other people not so much, a limitation on how we can love, what we can trust. And so it all is coming back to the same theme here today, to come home. To come home. And that maybe now we can understand, because we're adults here, that we've made a lot of decisions based on past traumas, based on things that either develop mentally, socially, or culturally that we weren't able to handle well, or that still imprinted us with harm. So, boy, I know this is a big topic today. Coming home, but not from a judgmental, I screwed up. I made all these false judgments, not from that place at all, but from, wow, how do I love me? How do I bring that all into the now so it can heal? We have to bring it all into the now. In one of the books we were reading in book study was When Things Fall Apart by Pema Chodron. And she says to invite the monster to tea. Invite these stories, invite these hard things that we've all gone through, that we've all experienced, invite it to tea. Invite it in. Invite it into the now where it can be cared for. There's aspects of our self, soul, and personality that get trapped, frozen, dissociated, split off, frozen, hid in trauma. And it's those aspects of personality development that the more we can bring them home, come home, that as adults we can hold those things that were harmful in the past, that were sad, that creates the warring nature in us, that creates the us and them, so that we can deeply, deeply in faith know that there is enough container individually and as a community to hold this. That what's going on in our world isn't bigger than our spiritual commitment towards being loving, towards being generous, compassionate. Take a breath. Okay, so to come home. So to come into meditation, I'm going to grab the guitar and I'm going to sing a song about coming home, but I want you, the best you can today, to sink in and to invite misunderstanding. To invite those times in our life that were so shocking or hurtful or surprising that we've got some pretty fixed ideas about it. I just remembered too another idea from that Pema Chodron book, When Things Fall Apart. I just lost it. That it's just an opinion. You know how in meditation practice we're trained to, when a thought comes up, just to go, oh, it's a thought, right? Oh, it's just another thought when we're in meditation. Well, she's taken it a step further and she's saying, oh, it's just an opinion. So what if today we can join in a unified field of love and bring those opinions to the now, where we can heal it, where we can handle it, where there's room to challenge it without being critical of ourselves because that happened in our life or this is happening in our world now. So I'm going to invite you to sink in now while I get the guitar. And go ahead and close your eyes if you're comfortable. And allow the ideas from the talk just to kind of float around in the field. An invitation to come home today. To come home. This time, this space. Coming back to breath. allowing the song just to sink in. Come back to me with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Trees do bend, though straight and tall, so must we to others call. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply our new life. The wilderness will lead you to your heart, where I will speak integrity and justice with tenderness you shall know. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply our new life. You shall sleep secure with peace. Faithfulness will be your joy. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply our new life. Long have I waited for your coming home to me, and living deeply our new life. So breathe that in. How good it feels to come back home again. That we're not separate from love. That there's no mistake in our personal journeys. That for whatever reason it's perfect. That we make a home for each other here. And the world needs that. Our time in history needs that. And it says in the gospel that my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That there are ways now that we can come to the present and understand that it's our presence, how loving we are and how lovingly connected to Source we are. That's all that's required. And feel that it's good to be back home again. And gently make your way back to the room. And take a couple of deep breaths to make sure we all get back to the room here. So in closing now, let us pray our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and always.